Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Sunday service. It's another Sunday service. Goodness me, it's another Sunday. Good evening, gents. How are we?
Cool. Good. Good. I know Ian had a great time at a model contest yesterday.
Go on, Ian. Tell everybody what happened.
I think I already have, actually. I went to the Sword and Lance show in Darlington, which is it's been around a while now, Sword and Lance. It was a good show. Really enjoy it, always do. Met up with lots of friends, old and new. Mr. Doubtfire, rally chef. Hi. He was on his way for ice cream in his new car, and various other things were occurring. And on a whim, I actually took a couple of models up and put them in the competition because it was suggested that I should. And there's the result. So my recently finished Skyline, which was on the show the last time I was here, the blue one, that got a silver. And my R35, the really, really long-term project R35, has finally reached completion. And yeah, it got a gold, which was yeah, we'll come back to the thing behind that in that picture actually later on. Yeah, I'm rather pleased. I was rather pleased. I was thinking about putting it in a somewhat more significant competition later in the year, shall we say. So I was testing the water with it, and yeah, it was quite well received, which I was very pleased about.
I'm gonna. I think we've probably covered this before, but short-term memory. The car on the left, that's the Mitsubishi, isn't it?
No, it's a Nissan.
Nissan. Painted up like a Zero?
Possibly, perhaps. Yeah, it's a Liberty LB Performance or Liberty Walk car, which there was a couple. These were fighter series. They did R35 as a Zero. They did a Mustang with wide arches and various markings on it as well. And yes, they're quite well-known cars. It's not an absolutely perfect rendition of the real thing because I don't think anybody's actually managed to get the right bits all in one place to do that car. But it's a passable representation of it. It's taken me the best part of 8 years. On and off modeling. It's one of those ones where you do a bit, you put it away, you wait a while, something else comes along, so you acquire that bit, you go do a bit more, you wait a while, something else comes along, which means you can do something else a bit better. And then in the end, I just got to the point where I was sick of looking at the box on the shelf. I pulled it all out and just pulled it out. Yeah, and got on with it, you know. It's here actually, so I'll show you if you want. If you've got a mo, there you go. So it's John did some editing on some photographs of it for me the other day, and I posted them in various of the groups, and it has generally been well received. It is a tad fragile, shall we just say. The finish in itself is yeah, I've got to be careful. I see it's picked up a little bit of finger grease in a couple of places, so I'm gonna have to work very carefully around that. But yeah, I was rather pleased with it, to be honest, in the end.
It looks quite flat, Ian. I take it that's intentional.
It is intentional, yeah. It's a satin finish, which is actually prototypical for the real car, based on the resin bits they were made by a company called Hobby Design, parts of which have morphed into Alpha Model, we've spoken about before. There's also, let me think now. There's probably the parts of about 3 different conversion sets in it. Various bits of Tamiya detail set. So there's grills in the back and the front, and then some of the exhaust tips and stuff are out of the Tamiya upgrade. There's Photox wheel brake discs and stuff in there. There's quite a bit of work on the dashboard as well. But yeah, I'd like to think it's possibly one of my better efforts. I was rather pleased with it. There's a couple of things I look at and go, I might have done that differently if I did it again. But that's learning curve stuff, isn't it? You know, so
I do like the look of it. I like the idea of a car that that doesn't require a glossy concours finish. So
don't get me wrong, it's a concours finish. It's just
no, you know what I mean. It doesn't require a high gloss finish. It just requires a semi gloss flattish finish.
I have to say there was more effort involved in getting that how I wanted it than there possibly was with the gloss finishes, because you have to get that uniform satin, you have to have a dead flat, dead smooth surface. So it was glossed and polished as I would a gloss car, and then flatted at that point, and then given the satin varnish. So it added an extra 2 steps onto my gloss coating process. So yeah, and at many points of the process, it was very close to getting thrown really hard against the wall. So that front splitter, the floor is split here, and there's a resin insert, and the joining face is like 1 millimeter. So they send you to butt fix 2 pieces that are 1 millimeter thick, and it not flex. Remarkable, because guess what? It flexes. So there's various interestingly disguised joining methods going on. I
see what you mean when you say it's fragile. It
is fragile. The rear wing took a full day just to assemble the rear wing, isolated from the car. I had a day off, had nothing else in the calendar. I was up here at 9:30, and I think I fixed it to the car the next day, having left it to dry overnight, having worked on it for something like 7 hours. So, but it's done. It's another one for the box, for the cabinet. And
well, you got a prize. Well done.
I'll do that. I got to do that. Look, I'll do that. Proper do that.
Absolutely brilliant.
Chris,
you have been busy, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I wasn't here last week, so I have essentially 2 weeks worth of stuff to talk about. Although this thing I started, this is an Airfix fabric wing Hurricane, and I started it I think in 2008, and I finally broke it back out and painted it. I'm doing Sammy Allard's Phony War Airplane. I have an extra decal sheet, and God bless those people. They put the serial number next to one of the overhead plans with camouflage, and they put that number next to 2 of them. They put it next to an A and a B camouflage scheme. So of course I started with the wrong one. I had to peel it all off again. But God bless you people, you decal folks, being so conscientious. But it's fine now. Everything's where it should be. And I used good old Humbrol 29 for the Dark Earth, and I used Model Master Dark Green. So very old school. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting my airbrush cleaned up, because that thing hadn't been really cleaned in a long time. And I use Pache VL, which is kind of like the Ford Model T of airbrushes for hobbyists. But the great thing about that is that you can find parts literally everywhere, and they're all interchangeable. And something goes haywire with one part, don't sweat it. You probably have the same part replicated somewhere in your stash. And so my airbrush is all tuned up and ready to run now. So that got its main coat of paint. I think that the other stuff I did was a little less airbrushy. I was working on the stuff for the Smilodon, diorama, and that's a great place to start, because you see that photo there with the lion cub and the Luftwaffe pilot. Scott Bricker commissioned somebody to do the art for this and 3D print it for a project he wants to do, obviously in 48 scale with this very scene, right? Well, it worked great for me because it was on Shapeways when Shapeways was a thing, and they do it in a bunch of different scales. So I got a 1/20th scale one, and I docked the tail, and I turned it into the Smilodon cub. So there he is before his flat coat. A little bit of the white work around the mouth and the eyes. So I got the cubs kind of finished this week, and yeah, I've put some more white around the muzzle in this guy. But the one thing I wanted to point out was the mouth, the detail in the mouth and the eyes. I didn't paint that. I have a whole series of these little micron paint or drawing pens, real fine pointed pens. This is a .005 pen, and I just use that to draw in the mouth and the eyes, and in the scale, it looks fantastic. It gives them some personality, and I use them on figures too, and I use them on some details on aircraft. They're kind of versatile, and you can get them in the art supply store for not very much money. One of my favorite tricks is to gloss coat the model like an airplane. Find spots where it might have some leaks and put down a couple of little dots of black and brown, and then just take a Q-tip or your fingertip and wipe it backwards, and you've got this beautiful fluid leak that is easy as pie to apply. And if you screw it up, if you don't go straight back perfectly, you can just wipe it off with some water and start again. So I love them. So anyway, the Lion Cubs are coming right along, and that's exciting. And yeah, and beyond that, I did more work on the F7F Tiger Cat. You'll probably see pictures of that next week, because I got to scratch build the rear cockpit. The Cobra Company cockpit doesn't really fit, and I did some work on my P40. I sprayed the I'm sorry, Hawk 82, Hawk 81A2. Yeah. The camouflage pattern of play at the factory was put on before the quarter light panel, so I'm gonna put that on there, and then put on the camouflage color, and then apply the glass over it, and then paint the rest of the model. So it's coming right along.
Oh, sorry, we're going around the houses here.
Dizzy.
Go on, Ian.
So you were making me dizzy for a minute.
I'm sorry about that. It's the controls can be a little bit they can be a little bit funny sometimes. So those Smilodons were 3D printed, were they, Chris?
Yes, they were. All the Smilodons on the display are going to be 3D printed. It's if you build things like prehistoric mammals or anything niche like I do, 3D printing is a godsend, because suddenly you have access to all kinds of interesting things. Smilodon is probably one of the more popular prehistoric mammals, saber-toothed tiger, quote unquote. But there's all kinds of things that you can build, and the world is my oyster after this is done. I can build the Irish elk, Megaloceros, or Sinoceros, or some of these other weird prehistoric deer, or I can build a Marcrocania, or a Chalicothere, or other things nobody's ever heard of, and thus there's never been a model kit of, because you'd be selling it to 2 or 3 people who are nerds like me that know these things. But nowadays it doesn't cost that much to print it, to make the STL file and offer it as a 3D printed item, and it's great. And I like building the same scale, right? So getting everybody to do it in 20th scale is nearly impossible. There's all kinds of different artisan scales out there for things, and they're usually sort of box scale style, which is like, if it's a big animal, it's a small scale. If it's a small animal, it's a big scale, and then you can't really display them together. Well, my 1/20th scale collection is going to be complete, because 3D printing, you can adjust the size.
Yeah.
And you've got a 3D printer, haven't you?
No, I my friend Roy Sutherland does, and I always lean on him. So actually, it's funny. My friend.
Talking of which, there we go.
There you go. It's
a very useful man to know, is Mr. Sutherland, isn't he?
My friend John Heck feeds me these things and says, "Hey, you need this. You should have Roy print this for you." So Roy can blame John, and then I blame both of them.
Right. Well, I am just going to, before we dive on with the news, I'm just going to bore you all with some project updates here. And I finally got round to finishing my little Tamiya 48 scale M8 howitzer. What a beautiful little kit. I love these 48 scale Tamiya kits. They're just so much fun. Not a massive fan of figure painting, but as always, I get to the end of painting a figure and I look at it and I go, do you know what? I've got ideas for how to do it differently next time. The difference on this particular one was I painted it pretty much entirely with acrylics, and it's a technique for doing faces where you apply everything as washes. Not a technique I'm entirely comfortable with, but it doesn't look horrific, let's put it that way. And what can you say about the Tamiya M8? It's an absolutely beautiful kit to build, an absolute blast to weather, and as you can see, we had fun weathering that. We absolutely plastered that with mud, hit it with mud, as the saying goes. So that is now all finished, boxed up. It will be delivered to Mr. Farmer of the hobby company. And what that means is I can now crack on with other projects that I've got to do for Mr. Farmer. Because, as I said to Drew last week, we're pretty much now at that 6-month period where we're kind of going, 6 months' time, we'll be getting ready to pack stuff up for Telford. So, right. The other thing I have been working on is, there we go. It's the Tamiya 35th scale Panzer 1B. And I think anybody who knows me, my sincere apologies, my sincere sympathies, but I love the Panzer 1. It's just one of those subjects that I find endlessly fascinating. Won my first model competition with a modified Eschi Panzer 1 B that I converted into an A. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit shiny on the turret and the side of the hull because we're going to put some stickers on there this week. And I only just glossed those areas. One thing I am going to say is that I am doing the box top scheme, which is one of the early war kind of, I think they're the Polish campaign ones that have the yellow crosses on them. But the sticking point there is that they really should be in a two-tone camouflage. But because I'm building this for the hobby company, I've really got to build it as it is in the box. So as it is in the box, it's just Panzer Grey. So it's not going to be strictly 100% accurate, but unfortunately, sometimes when you are building to commission, you have got to build what is supplied, but not a hardship. As you can see, I've done a little bit of weathering on it, but we're not going to go mad like we did with the M8. And I have also started prepping the figure as well. So we've got the flesh areas on there, and we've started to get the uniform thin layers of what paint am I using? I'm using Ammo of MiG. It's one of their sets. So these are applied in very thin layers. The difference I'm going to do with this one is that all the flesh parts on this one, I am going to be reverting back to oils to do the detailing, and possibly also might use some oils on the uniform. One thing I am going to be doing, because there are decals that have to go on this figure, one thing I am going to be doing is when I get round to giving the figure a final sealing coat of flat varnish, I'm mixing a little tiny amount of white in with the flat varnish, and then as I'm kind of like spraying it from that perspective, what it's going to do is it's going to flatten the figure, but it's also subliminally going to put like a lighter filter over the top. Can't guarantee it's going to work brilliantly, but we'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. But I have got to say, I am absolutely loving this Panzer One, and I am seriously looking forward to Mia doing more variants around this family, and I am looking forward to the opportunity of building another one at some stage. But yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff, and I can build models when I put my mind to it. So
is that Tamiya kit one of the ones with the new generation of figures in it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're so nice.
These, I'm not going to say they almost paint themselves, but having painted some of the older figures in the last couple of years, even if you just put basic colors on them, they sort of come to life. Here we go. Jim Altegott has a question for you, Chris. He says, question, Chris, how about building a Noah's Ark with 2 each of prehistoric animals?
Well, it's funny you should ask Jim, because I build 1/20th scale. That'd be a very big project. And if you think about it, I don't think the prehistoric ones that we did, like these made it on the Ark. That's why some people would say that's why they're not around anymore, right? They all drowned in the flood. No, I actually have a goal at some point to have an entry at the U.S. Nationals called the Zoo of the Ancients, and just have a whole scad of these prehistoric mammals from the Paraceratherium all the way down to like Epigalus, the horned gopher. It's a panoply of fantastic stuff, and being in the United States, one of the fun things is once in a while you run into somebody who says, oh, that animal wasn't real. God put those bones in the ground to challenge our faith, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm building a ton of those things, so challenge away,
So did you just say horned gopher?
Yes, it was a gopher with two horns on its nose. Yeah.
What's it called, Chris?
Epigalus.
Epigalus.
My brain's trying to leak out of my ear now.
Nature put horns on everything.
Oh my goodness me! I think I might have found. Yep, I found.
It's a 50-50 bet. You've either found a picture of what Chris is talking about or porn. So there's no bet. You can do a Google search.
Right.
So,
internet. That's what internet searches are for. It's either what you're looking for or the alternative.
Yeah.
Right. Here we go. I found it. I have found Epigalus. There we go. That's him, isn't it, Chris?
Yes. That's it's very nice. That's a very nice etching of Epigalus with the crazy horns. Yeah. Yeah. Nature does try out a lot of interesting ideas. So
yeah,
great.
Not all of them sometimes successful or indeed attractive.
That's right.
There we go. Yeah, Forever Flying says yikes. That was my reaction when I saw it. Viewer Jared, just over the hill here. He says, has a replicant replaced JM? So much modeling done in 7 days. Do you know what, Jared? No, because I really haven't done that much modeling in the last week to 10 days because as you know, the weather's been lovely. So I've been outside doing gardening and planting bulbs and things, as my dirty fingernails will attest. So, and viewer David says, is Jonathan's sweater in Panzer Grey 2? Yeah, it is, Dave. Absolutely. Right, gentlemen, shall we dive on with the news? And, well, what's new for this week? Right, this is a project from, oh, goodness me, I've lost the schedule here. This is a project by Micromere that they started and then kind of shelved, and they're putting it back into production again. Oh my goodness me. What a bounder. It's the I've got to try and remember how you pronounce this. Myasishchev. Does that sound right?
Myasishchev, yes.
Myasishchev M-50. Goodness me, what it's pure Thunderbirds, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. That's for sure. I was chatting about this with a couple of the guys I went to the show with on the way back from Darlington yesterday, and we were thinking how long, even in 144 scale, that thing's got to be a good foot long.
Yeah.
It's not bigger. That's a big old aeroplane, but it's long and narrow, isn't it? It's a very big 21E, long and narrow. So that's.
I am sure. I'm sure Ken Duffy has built one of these in 72nd scale.
I've got it in my head. There was a vac form at some point in time.
There was. Yeah, somebody in my club had built the vacuum form one a while back, and it was a monster. But in 72nd scale, it's huge, obviously. And
was that Contrail or someone like that did that?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
That's a long time ago. That's way back in the annals of my slightly addled brain.
That is a punishing model.
Yeah.
No, I can remember. It's a copy of Air Enthusiast Quarterly. It was the bound. It was the bound issues that they did, and they had an article about Monino, how you pronounce it, and this was one of the aircraft in the report. And again, I just remember seeing it and thinking, goodness, it just looks so Jerry Anderson.
Yeah, there's a very good series on Google of aerial shots of Menino, and that thing is sat dead center in the field at the back of the main building, and it just dwarves everything.
Yeah.
Around. That's yeah.
Well,
tempting. But yeah.
I'm just doing a I'm just going onto Google Maps here, and I'm just seeing if we can pull up an image of it.
Probably. If you start the bearing straight and turn right, you're all right.
Yeah,
Bruce Bell is correct. Also, there is an A model kit of this thing in 72nd scale, which is
is that one of the fiberglass fuselages and things like that?
Yeah.
But yeah, 144 scale. It's a shame Drew's not on tonight because Drew's off. I think he's off partying or he's at a gig or something. This has got Drew written all over it. Well, I would imagine, but he'll probably say to me, "Well, boring." But no, I
and then buy one and still build it. You mean?
Yeah. It looks like somebody took an F8, a B-58, and maybe a Canberra and mixed all the parts up and gave it to somebody to reassemble into an airplane, and this is what they came up with.
Well, like I say, it honestly it looks like something from Thunderbirds or Captain Scala, and it looks like Derek Meddings and the guys at Century 21 Studios just took a load of kits and just kit bashed something. They took Concorde, they took a B-58, they took a B-52, and they've just put something together.
Yeah. It is a very cool airplane too. And I think in this scale it's actually manageable on a shelf someplace. It's not
beautiful box art as well. That is absolutely stunning box art. So
great subject. I would love to see this built. I don't build that scale. I would build a 144 scale one if I ever got my mitts on it. But I want to see this one built because it's, like I said, it's a manageable. It's still gonna be huge. It's like a 144 scale B-36. It's still gigantic. But
someone's saying 1'4".
Yeah. So
16 inches.
Yeah. Can't please everybody. Tim Maunder says horrible. So okay, fair enough.
Yes, but Tim's also moved it forward in time about 20 years because he's saying it's a target for an F-16. So
there is that. Mike Williams says, just looked it up. The real thing was about 188 feet long, which equates to just over 15 inches. in 144th. But the good news is, it doesn't have a massive wingspan, so it's going to be, but it's going to be concise. Right, the next news item is well, you can't go wrong with a zero. This is Fine Molds, and they are doing a pair of Type 52A zeros. And what's the difference between them? Well, the one of them is a Mitsubishi built zero, and the other one is a Nakajima built zero. I'm probably got them the wrong way around, but never mind. From what I can glean from this, they're also going to be doing them in 72nd scale as well. But this is 48th scale. Yeah, a Japanese kit company doing zeros. They're not gonna lose their shirt on it. Let's put it that way.
I built a Fine Molds A6 M2 in 72nd scale some years ago, and it was at the time. I think it's still right up there. It's probably one of the best kits I've ever built in terms of detail and fit. And if these are even based off of those, I would be excited about it. If they're new, I would really love to see it.
These are the new ones where they're doing them using really, really complex slide mold technology. So the rear fuselage and the cockpit section and everything are a single piece. So you don't get, so they're basically breaking it down like the real aircraft. So the join line behind the cockpit, everything behind that is a slide mold. There's an exploded drawing picture somewhere. I think, John, have you got that?
Yeah, I've just brought it on screen.
Oh, there we
go.
So that's it. It's from a point of view of engineering and kit design, it's going to be a typical Fine Molds thing where they're just pushing, because that's what they're very good at doing. They push the envelopes on what you can do. They're F4s, and we'll come back to them in a minute, no doubt. I've built or assembled a couple of those because you don't build them, you literally assemble them. They are that well engineered that they're just stunning pieces of kit. But that's just like, okay. Separate frame and glass, but I like the fact that they give you the option of a conventional.
Yep.
I love the fact that they do, because you can give the separate frames and panes a shot, and if you screw up, you have someplace to go.
You can still go back to the original. Yeah.
Right.
That last picture that you had up, John, that illustrates that slide mold. That rear fuselage section that's in that picture there, that's literally what's in the box.
Yep.
And from a piece of molding technology, no seams top and bottom, only a seam where on the real aircraft there is a seam. And it'll be interesting to see how they assemble. I shall be pleased to tell you I won't be trying because I've got an idea that I was looking at the yen price on these, and I have got an idea.
Oh, we've lost Ian.
He's cursing. We've edited him because
he's just about to tell us the price.
I'm sorry. I've seen online how much the yen price is for these, and by my estimation, they're in the region of £45 to £50 a pop for the 72nd scale ones.
Yeah.
Which
that's it feels expensive, but it's
probably not.
It's the high. It's kind of high. It's a high in the higher range, but it's not totally outlandish.
It's tariffs, and so. But then again, you look at that quality of engineering and you go, right, okay, so will I pay for that quality of engineering? If you want it and you want it enough, you're going to do it.
Yeah. That looks like a fun. To me, that looks like a fun build experience. It looks like a lot of fun.
A lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Last minute doodahs.
Jim Altegott says, I want to buy and build one of the Fine Mold Zeros just to experience this new molding technology. And Travis Thompson says, Plaza Japan has pre-orders that are reasonable. And
Surprising.
Griffier says got the 48th for 50 New Zealand dollars. So
Not bad. Not bad.
And good news, Tim Maunder actually likes something now. He says, like the canopy frame. There we go. And Griffier says he's built one and it's superlative. So
try and remember what the New Zealand dollar to pound conversion's like at the minute. That one come up.
Dave Fleming says when the Tamiya 72nd scale 109G is touching £25, £45 doesn't seem exorbitant. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, fine molds. The clue is in the name. They've always been at that cutting edge, and they're It's a shame Drew's not on tonight because I know Drew has built or started building one of the F4s, and I seem to remember there were aspects of it that he wasn't terribly keen on. But this is Fine Molds are doing some more Phantoms, but they're doing the pointy nose ones, I think is the best way of putting it. They're doing an F4E late model, which is this one here. So there are the new bits. This is a slatted winged Phantom, and some very nice German schemes. Do like those ones. And then they're doing an F4F, which again, new bits. And I just love those European schemes, the grey ones. And here we have some annotation from Fine Molds, and as we can see, there is your slatted wing. You can also see in that image, which is one of the, I know this is, again, Drew's not here tonight, but this was one of the areas he didn't like, was that panel, that fuselage panel.
The spine section separate. And I'd say I built a couple of these, and I'm with him on it a bit. It takes a little bit too much faff, if you know what I mean, to get it settled. Because if you only have to be a little bit out, and you have a large rectangular seam line rather than a single central seam line.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to try to preserve the location of antennas and things on the spine, but you gotta be very, very on the nose with the parts, and it's not that easy for the model makers to get it exactly right.
I gotta say, in that view, it doesn't look too bad. But like I say, but perhaps we will come back to these at some stage, because I think to have Drew's informed view. Well, I mean, fine. It's Fine Molds. It's not going to be terrible.
No.
We're talking about degrees of finesse here. But yeah, this just looks absolutely top dollar, or indeed top yen. So
looking at those those drawings of the new parts, and they've covered everything that you need in tiny detail, really, to get a proper F4F, a proper F4E, rather than a kind of nearly perhaps F4F, which I think was basically what Hasegawa gave us. So I like Tim's comment. Tim's doing really well tonight. Tim's comment of the real one was a dreadful fit too. Thanks, Tim. Did you take your positive pills this morning, Tim?
If you built the model the way the real ones looked, you probably would get dinged for it. But that's kind of the way it is. That fun of getting a conversation with him yesterday. There was a couple of things in the competition where people had built them, and they built them to a photograph, and the photograph had come back, and people going, "I didn't do it." And there's the photograph that proves. Yeah.
It did that, But no, there's no but. There's a photograph that proves, and this is a conversation you have, isn't it? Particularly, it's like race cars. I mean, someone will produce a kit and it'll be X, Y, and Z, and then I'll go away and do principal reference on it. I will go and check every picture I can of that car, because I can guarantee that a sponsorship decal won't be in the right place, or there'll be a shape change on the rear, or there'll be something about it. And then my effort is then to represent that. Kits are a starting point. Where we start from, how we choose to take them beyond that starting point is exactly up to us. And a case in point is Drew's efforts with the Sea Fury. He could have battered that cowling together, but he made a new cowling and in the process improved it for him.
Right.
That thing. I beat together three things and improved it for me. What we do with what we get is up to us. All the manufacturer will do is give us a starting point, and it's entirely our interpretation as to how we go forward with it. And then I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yoav Efrati says these are slatted wing with Taiso F4E/F. Somebody has to explain that to me, because that's just words.
Go back to the vertical shot, looking down on the spine and the left under port wing.
Yeah.
And the Taiso is the tubular camera pod inboard of the outboard tank mount on the leading edge. That one.
Yeah, I can see it now. Yes, Taiso.
So realistically, that there F4E, and Yofi will correct me if I'm wrong. That will allow you to build an Israeli Phantom.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. I was being incredibly dense there. I do apologise. Viewer Jamie says, shame they couldn't do a one-piece fuselage like Academy. Well, swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Zero, doesn't it? It's only one step from the 5 mold 0 to a 5 mold Phantom with the complete. And that's what they've done, isn't it? Because if I remember, that's why the spine is separate, because the fuselage, that main fuselage section, is one piece with the drop-in spine, and then the fin goes on.
Right.
Okay. Well. When we got Drew on, we'll
one out of his stash.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Next. We have. Well, this is the very definition of interesting modelling. This is Hobby Boss, and they're doing in 1/350th scale HMS Lord Clive. Now, HMS Lord Clive, I'm just reading off of Wikipedia here. HMS Lord Clive was the lead ship of her class of 8 monitors built for the Royal Navy during World War I. Their primary armament was taken from obsolete pre-dreadnought battleships. The ship spent the war in the English Channel bombarding German positions along the Belgian coast as part of the Dover Patrol, often serving as a flagship. She participated in the failed first Ostend raid in 1918, bombarding the defending coastal artillery as the British attempted to block the Bruges-Ostend Canal. Lord Clive was one of 2 ships in the class fitted with a single 18-inch 457mm gun in 1918, but she only ever fired 4 rounds from it in combat before the end of the war in November. The ship conducted gunnery trials after the war and was sold for scrap in 1927. Now, this was brought to our attention by viewer Russell Taylor, who says, my grandfather served on a sister ship of HMS Clive, HMS Eugene, during World War I. I guess it was HMS Prince Eugene, which is weird since in German it would have been Prince Eugen. The aft turret on HMS Clive mounts a single 18-inch gun that was added late in the war. Prince Eugene was being modified to carry the same armament, but the war ended before the conversion was completed. So there we go. I've got to say, I am loving this. It just looks bum pot crazy, doesn't it? But it just looks so unusual.
Yeah. Oh, I think ship modelers, you know, especially in 350 scale, this is a kind of a cool place to start because these are unusual ships, but they have a lot of charm to them, and it's like building a battleship, but not the whole battleship. You know,
Yes.
turrets, superstructure, mast, but not a bunch of turrets or a bunch of masts. It's manageable. I've always wanted to build one of the World War II Airbus or maybe one of the Roberts class ones, because they were basically like scaled down battleships with everything a battleship would have, minus the full size. But really cool vessels.
Dave Fleming says Trumpeter did a later monitor, would make an interesting pair. But yeah, do you know what? It's indicative of just how buoyant this hobby is that every week when we do this show, there's always something that we talk about, and I think to myself, oh yeah, no, I've got to build that. And it just gets to the stage where there are more new kits coming out than there is time to actually do anything about them. And then we'll get into 2026, and then there'll be loads of new kits coming out again. It'll just be like, oh. Just going to say, I do like the fact that on the hull there's a walkway with railings below on the waterline.
Yeah, when the vessel, it looks like it rides high enough in the water, you can actually walk on that stabilization bulge.
Yeah.
So is that picture definitely the same vessel, or is that just at a different point in time? Because the hull sides are different in that image.
I think that's looking.
I wonder if the stabilization bulges are post the big fit of the 18-inch. Obviously,
this is quite possibly a different fit, because that's only got a single gun on that, whereas this one's got two. But
still scary.
Yeah, I just think that looks absolutely fabulous, and another kit that I've temporarily fallen in love with. So let's play catch up with the comments. Travis Thompson says, what defines a monitor? Ships aren't my thing. I'm just going to look that up. Monitor.
I can tell you off the top of my head, they're lightly armored, heavily armed, and they're not really intended to fight other vessels. They're mostly intended for coastal warfare. During the American Civil War, they used a lot of monitors on the rivers.
Yeah, the USS Monitor. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, there's the name. They often were mounting weapons from old battleships had been retired, right. And so it was a good way to bring big guns to a coastal fight. And the World War II British monitors fought in Italy and in off the coast of Africa, and in I think they had one of them present on D-Day. But you know, it was a great way to bring a slow ship that was not really a fleet vessel into action against enemy targets. You know, big guns.
Theron Hampton says, "I'm sorry, that's butt ugly." But we've got the defenders are jumping in here. Paul Voyle says, "Very Heath Robinson," and I'm just having a look. We've got some viewer David Fleming says the Royal Navy used monitors in Africa in World War One. And I'm just having a quick scroll through the. Jim Altegott says, he says, at Theron Hampton, agreed Theron, however, there is a beauty in its ugliness.
The other comment that's further up, Darth Bilius has said there were 5 navies use ships called the Prince Eugen.
I'm just
an interesting comment.
Great trivia.
I'd like
yes, there we go.
The problem is my brain will now go read about this. And I will have no choice, but I will have to read about this.
Right, next news item, and we are going to overrun tonight, but what the heck? We are going to dive back to fine molds, and they are doing injection molded goodies for add-ons for kits. Surprised that they're still doing these as injection molded rather than 3D printed, but there we go.
Right.
They are doing.
Sorry.
Okay. They're doing wrong one. They're doing formation lights and chaff flare dispensers for the F-15. So there we go. It just gives you an idea of just how fine molds can do this stuff. Not an intentional pun. They really do absolutely fabulous stuff in injection molded. They're also doing Imperial Japanese Navy mantlets or rolled up hammocks, and these were an ad hoc armor. And again, there we go, injection molded.
That's a nice addition. That there's an awful lot of early war Japanese carriers that had those on the superstructures, but the kits don't have them. Mm-hmm. So you build them as a pre-war, but you can't really go full on World War II until this. This is great.
Mm-hmm. And also coming from fine molds, check this out. It's a Makino V33 got my teeth in, milling machine. Now Hasegawa have done. They did a injection molding kit of an injection molding machine. I think it was 1/60th scale. But yeah, look at this.
Hey Chris, it's 1/20th scale.
I know. I can have a Smilodon using it.
And fine molds molding this in color as well. So the theory is that less experienced modelers won't need to paint it. But what a fabulous subject! How unusual.
That really is neat. Yeah, that's very cool. I've seen some Japanese kits. There was an article that was done for the IPMS USA Journal that I'm not sure it got published yet, but it was a Japanese kit of a vending machine. It's a fairly mundane, everyday thing, but you can really do cool things with a model as a model with that. And same here, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave says the milling machine intended for Drew. Do you know what, Dave? You've suddenly given me a brainwave for Drew's Christmas present for this year. There we go. I am going to get him a model of a milling machine. So that's fine mold. So that's part deux of
the nano bits. I bought when I got the Phantoms. I got the one of the Japanese Airsoft Defence Force Phantoms, and in it was a set of seat belts,
yes,
or doodahs that went with it, and they were from this nano range. These are the most. Someone's pointed out they produced an ABS, and it's a flexibility to them, and they're really ridiculously fine. They did the ejector pull handles for the Phantom seats on them and things like that, and they're absolutely beautifully produced. And those sprues are probably, from experience, about 1 inch by 2 inches, which gives you an idea of the size. So, in one of the, I think it was in the Phantom, one of them had the slime lights on that, and you could put them on, and they were no thicker than your average decal on the model. They were just beautiful. But someone else has also pointed out in there it would be better as 3D printed decals. I believe someone's already done a load of 3D printed decals. So it's that technology thing, isn't it? I mean, the 3D printed stuff's beginning to just in that way.
Right. Next, Is it real or is it a dream? No, it's definitely a dream. It's Dream Model, and they're doing a 72nd scale KA. I've been listening to a lot of Kate Bush recently. There we go. KA-52 Alligator attack helicopter. What can we say about this? It's a fabulous looking aircraft. It really, again, got a touch of the Jerry Andersons about it. And Dream Model, I've got some Dream Model stuff, and I think my initial impressions were they sometimes the panel lines could be a little bit heavy, but it looks like they're kind of learning on the job here. And some very nice schemes. You've got a nice sharp mouth one there in grey. We've got a camo one, two more camo ones, another grey one, and two more camo ones. And there we go. We've got some of the construction sequences there. There's the decal sheet. Very nicely done decal sheet, and a little fret of photo etched bits and pieces. Plus, they're also going to be doing some 3D printed bits for, I think it's probably the initial release. So we've got some of the sensors there, and we've got the wheels. We've got weapons there, and we've got, oops and daisy, and we've got more weapons there, pylons and more weapons. I like the look of this. It's quite, I don't want to say quite an attractive looking helicopter, but you know what I mean. Again, if you were to put a Spectrum logo on the side of that, it would look like something straight out of Captain Scarlet.
It would. Yeah, I love this the Kamov twin rotor helicopters, because they give the designers a lot of room to do cool things with the fuselage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get that sort of polywog looking fuselage. So you can probably carry a lot of fuel, a lot of weapons. Obviously, those pylons are stuck full.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool aeroplane. You know, that. It's a brutal looking thing. There's lots of footage of them coming out of a certain war zone. And,
yes, and plenty of opportunities for weathering, and there's lots of photographs of them on the ground, although sometimes you can't see the landing gear.
Yeah, they sit very low, don't they? Yeah, that is. Actually, I had the an AH-1Z in my hands. A friend of mine had acquired one. I was having a really good look through it, and you can't fault them for quality of injection molding. I get what you mean about the surface details sometimes. I think that's very much a matter of taste anyway, isn't it? So, you know, I know Jamie Hago, who is commenting tonight, would be frothing at the mouth at really nice, big, deep, square panel lines, whereas I actually quite like them in some ways. But you know, each to their own again, isn't it? But that's a really cool kit, actually, and it's a topical subject. So, yeah,
I have their HH65, and it's perfectly acceptable as far as I'm concerned. When it's going to be painted orange, and you know, the panel lines just sort of aren't a problem with really bright color. You can make them
Coast Guard one.
Yes, the Coasties ones. Yep.
You and I were stood at the Bayside in San Francisco, and one flew over.
It's the one. Yeah, it's our San Francisco helicopter.
Photos of that. Yeah. So
the reason I got it is because years ago, this is probably about 6 years ago, my daughter was about 5 or 6 years old. We were going to the Hornet for the 4th of July, and they had a power failure out of the at the dock, so they couldn't let people on the ship. So we're sort of wandering around, and the HA-65 from the Coast Guard was out there as a kind of an attraction for my they had to take off for the day. So the Coast Guard helicopter lifted off, the HA-65 lifted off and started to circle around, and my daughter started waving at it, and the rescue man in the door started waving back. So my daughter's entire day was made as a 5-year-old. That you can imagine. So I got to build that helicopter, right?
Yeah, you got to build it, Chris. You got I think she's got to build it as well. She's got to help you build it.
she's getting old enough. She could probably build it herself. So we're sneaking up on that point.
Mm-hmm. Right, the next news item, and well, imagine you fancy the idea of building tanks, but you're not too keen on all that faffing around with tracks and wheels and things. Right, fine. Build one as a static dug-in tank, really. Now this is from this is from RT Diorama. It's a 35th scale Type 95 Hago, not a Jamie. This is a Hago, but this is a Hago. Static dug-in Japanese Type 95 tank position. So it's 3D printed, and as you can see, it's not going to be construction-wise. It's not going to be an epic, but painting on the other hand is, because those Japanese camouflage schemes are really quite involved. Mm-hmm. But there we go. Unassembled and unpainted kit, highly detailed, includes detailed 3D printed parts apparently. But yeah, so if you do like building tanks, but you don't want to mess around with tracks and wheels, there you go. There's your solution.
It's a waterline Hago.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Does I wonder if the instructions tell you where the prototype for this was placed? That's really interesting.
Yeah, they've got to have found a photograph of it at some point, haven't they?
Yeah.
There we go. Jamie says, I must do a Hago one day. Lots 9 says, just the thing for airbrush practice. Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Altergott said, this is very neat, brilliant idea for a model kit. So yeah, I agree. Absolutely brilliant. So right, we're coming up to that news at 10 moment now, which Ian will understand, but Chris will just be thinking, what on earth are you talking about? And finally, remember that, Ian?
Yeah.
Was it
there's always a vaguely comedic story on the end of the news.
Yeah, it's time for the lighter side story that ends the newscast on an upbeat note. We have them here. We have those here.
Yeah, it was Alistair Stewart, wasn't it, Ian, who used to go on news at 10. And finally, we are returning to Micromere. This is a kit that we have covered in the past, but now we've got box art and sprue shots and everything, and it is the epic looking Deal a Bakalan DB10. Now the note on the script here just says tasty ! It
doesn't get any prettier for color, does it?
No. I don't think I would quite fancy going into combat in that with that epic armor plating around the cockpit. Well, there's absolutely no protection in the cockpit there. It's open to the elements, but this is from an era where every aeroplane design looked like it came straight out of a Fritz Lang film. It's got the aerodynamics of a brick, but I've never built anything by Micromere, and I do like the look of this.
It's pretty cool. I think I love the fact that there are these two on each wing. They have those two little struts holding up this gigantic wing. Really? You needed that too?
Yep.
They're 3D printed engines and a bit of photo etch.
Yeah.
They'll be useful in the spares box.
It's not bad.
I have no words.
I guess you could, if you're part of the crew up top there, if you got too windblown, you could go down into the library below and relax.
There's been a thing, hasn't there, that there are a large period of time in the late 20s and 30s where there was a competition between the French and certain British designers to come up with the worst looking aeroplanes.
Yep.
You know, the Blackburn Blackbird,
Yep.
Well, there's
the
it just
Overstrand,
it seems so ergonomically poor. I mean, they just sort of abuse their crews by sticking them in the weirdest places. You know, gunners behind engines and people just out in the windstream. And
is that from that period where they believed that the fuselage should generate lift? And I think that's what that is.
Yeah, clearly that's supposed to be a lifting surface.
Yeah, and I suspect that behind those windows in the front, there's one very chastened-looking engineer going, "Why did I volunteer?"
I would imagine behind those windows in the front, there's probably a bar.
Yes.
A couple of people have commented. They said the guy in the front seat is looking like he's on the Titanic, and Jim Alcott says that, and Craig Sargent says Nose Gunner is having his Titanic moment. Look, Jack, I'm flying. Jamie says, how could they design something as minging as their interwar bombers, yet design some beautiful fighters? It's that great dichotomy of French aviation design, isn't it? Their bombers were just horrific, and then they do something like the Mirage or the Mystère. And
the Dowatine 510s and the Monseigneur 225s and 230s, things like that, which were of that era. Their fighters in the same era were beautiful. The bombers, less so. Hotez 540, the legend that is,
Tim Mulder's winning with the comments tonight. He just says, "Oh dear." But I am absolutely loving that, and if I can find one for a decent price, I'm going to add it to all the other kits that I've got here, which I'll probably never get around to building. But anyway, gents, we have overshot, but it is that time of the day where I say, any other business. Ian's right. Ian's got any other business. Right, here we go.
This little company, mainstay of the British hobby, and also seen at many European shows. Bumped into them again at the show yesterday because I'd thrown my catalogue away foolishly during a tidy up at some point. Picked up a new catalogue. These people, nameplates, plaques, foil modelled bases, the go-to in the UK hobby. Name it. Absolutely worth picking up, finding their material, all sorts of fonts, sizes, shapes, styles, and colours of plaques available from them. The figure modeler guys love them.
Ian, do you have a website address there?
I do. It is www.nameitplates.co.uk.
Right, I'm just going to see if we can. No, that's because I've spelt name it plates wrong. There we go. Right, we have a screen that we can share.
Yes, Craig, we know.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
But I've been using them. I was working it out. I think I'm trying to think of whether that might have bumped into them at Telford, but then I think it actually might have been Donington.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought some plaques for small bases for when I was building 72nd Armour, and bits and pieces like that from them over the years. And they've been around forever, and they've actually rolled out some new fonts and some new colours of material according to the little bits in the catalogue. They do all sorts of sizes and shapes of plaques, and their service is exemplary. I know that because I've used them for years. And I've just picked up the catalogue and I thought I'm going to mention that tonight in any other business, because I just think these are the kind of people that we have in the trade, in the hobby, that sometimes we take for granted because they've been around for years.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been around for years because they never deviate from a level of service that you cannot beat.
Right, I have just shared it to the Interesting Modelling Company Facebook page. So there you go, folks. I might place an order with them this week because I need to get some plaques made. So
they are.
Yeah.
I've had me any business moment.
One item for me, hey, if you don't have a silver Prismacolor pencil, some people use them for weathering, so they're great for chipping on aircraft. You can use it for all kinds of stuff, weathering the interior, getting some dry brushing effects on panels, even bringing out some 1/72nd scale wiring and stuff. This is like this week's indispensable tool for me. I got this in an art store maybe 15 years ago because you're not going to use that much lead out of these things. But these are such fantastic, versatile tools. If you don't have one, it's a Béchereau Prismacolor PC 949. It is a lifesaver in a lot of cases and useful tool.
I'm just having a look at my oh good, I've got an absolute forest of cut. Here we go.
Rather amusingly, I picked mine up to show my solidarity with Chris and managed to break the tip off of it.
There we go. A Béchereau Prismacolor. It's 141, but that is the silver one, and that is I bought that in. Let's play Guess the Year.
I'm going to go with 1998.
Ian?
95.
Split the difference. It was 1997. There we go.
I'm trying to think how long I've felt the condition of this one.
8 years ago, and that pencil, that's how much I've used it all the time, but that's brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely fabulous. Right,
it's
folks.
My desk pencil. This has got Saab written on it, and I sold Saabs between 1998 and 2003. I will never get rid of that desk pencil. That is the last ever Saab artifact I have.
Mm-hmm. Travis Thompson says. Travis Thompson says 100% a Prisma Silver is a must-own. And just as we have done any other business and we're getting ready to sign off for the night, Mr. Spencer Pollard says, evening, fellas. But Spencer's in a good mood, I know, because of the fact that we are potentially two games away from winning the league championship. One game away if Arsenal cock it up this weekend and we win. So there we go. So absolutely splendid. On that note, sorry, Ian?
I'm an East London boy. I did not enjoy today's result.
Yeah, well, actually, my mother's family are all from East London, and hello, Mum. And my late maternal grandfather was a shareholder in Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. There we go. Anyway,
his grave today.
I've still got his upstairs in the attic. I've still got his World Cup 1966 scrapbook that he put together at the time. Absolutely fascinating document. Anyway, on that note, we fingers crossed we'll be back next Sunday. Big shout to everybody who tuned in tonight. Sorry we didn't have time to give you all a shout out, but as you can see, it was a packed show this evening. So a big thank you to Ian and Chris for joining us tonight. Big thank you to you, the viewers, as well. We will try and keep you entertained throughout the week with updates and project bits and pieces. Until next time, as always, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you very, very soon. So bye for now.